In the news tonight, Their Majesties check on the living conditions of children at Al Hussein Social Foundation for Orphans at the start of the holy month of Ramadan. The Yemeni government's delegation threatens to quit talks on a possible truce as no progress is reported. And Greece risks a painful exit from the euro and ultimately the European Union if Athens and its creditors do not strike a swift aid for reforms deal. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty the King, accompanied by Her Majesty Queen Rania, visited Al Hussein Social Foundation for Orphans for a first-hand look at the living conditions of 125 children. The visit came on the eve of the start of the holy month of Ramadan. King Abdullah and Queen Rania commended the efforts and dedication of the foundation's staff and their humanitarian work to care for the orphans. His Majesty ordered that the foundation's needs be addressed and to run a solar energy system to reduce energy cost at the facility. The King also suggested that the energy system be applied to other care homes affiliated with the Ministry of Social Development in the Kingdom to ease their financial burden. Their Majesties toured the foundation's departments where nurses and mothers in the newborn section briefed them on the children's care levels. The government was briefed on the progress of the General Secondary Education Certificate Examination Tawjihi summer session, which began this week. About 103,000 students in public and private schools of all scientific, literary and vocational education streams are sitting the exam, which determines their future education path. Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Education Mohammed Naibat spoke of a smooth and comfortable atmosphere in the first 2 days of the exam and hoped the discipline will continue for the rest of the test period. He also told the meeting chaired by Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour that the Tawjihi exam has so far been glitch-free, but said about 100 students had been barred from the exam for a variety of violations. Yemen's exiled government said talks on a possible truce in the war in the country have made no progress and threatened to pull out of the negotiations held in Geneva. The talks among Yemen's warring factions are entering a second day, but the two sides still refuse to sit at the same table and laid out clashing agendas. UN envoy to Yemen Ismail Wald Sheikh Ahmed and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon both said they hoped the talks would result in a humanitarian truce to allow international aid agencies to deliver assistance to some 21 million Yemenis. Although the truce option is under discussion, an agreement is nowhere to be reached. Yemeni Foreign Minister Riyad Yassin said he is not optimistic about the outcome of the Geneva peace talks as the Houthi delegation has not shown up.
It is true. I'm not optimistic because the Houthis' actions on the ground, from the destruction and killing of innocents, and especially in Aden and Taiz and the rest of Yemen's cities, and their actions and words here since they arrived in Geneva, do not demonstrate any good intentions on their part, nor any real desire to reach a real solution.
An Iraqi security official said Daesh terrorist group killed 5 policemen near Iraq's Biji refinery. The attack by the terror group may help ease pressure on some of its fighters trapped in the area north of Baghdad. The official in a regional security command center said the militants mounted the operation as part of a battle for control of Biji refinery. After receiving reinforcements, the group recaptured 3 neighborhoods in the town of Biji near the refinery, but fresh clashes have erupted there. The Iraqi government is focused on 2 key areas in its bid to loosen the grip of Daesh, which controls a third of Iraq and large parts of neighboring Syria. In Syria, meanwhile, Syrian rebels said they launched an offensive to capture remaining positions held by the Syrian military in Qnitra province in southern Syria. The province has been the scene of frequent fighting between various insurgent groups and the Syrian military backed by allied militia. A rebel spokesman said an alliance of insurgent groups involved in the offensive is fighting under the banner of the Free Syrian Army. But he stressed Al-Qaeda's Syria wing, Nusra Front, was not taking part. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported violent clashes between the Syrian military and insurgent groups, including Islamist factions in northern Qnitra. Qnitra province is near the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, where bombardments could be seen a short distance away. Businesses and social activities associated with the holy month of Ramadan have been in decline in Syria due to the civil war. The four-year conflict has cast doubt on any political or economic stability.
Ramadan in Syria usually means brisk business for grocery stores as residents prepare for the fasting month that starts on Thursday. But many shops in Damascus say that's not the case this year.
Trade here in general is down. People are all suffering and tired. For us, it is not different because we kind of expect it, but usually business in Ramadan is brisk in the first and the last week of the month.
More than 4 years after the start of the conflict, poverty has worsened and the ongoing violent attacks have taken a toll. Many families are unable to prepare for the big feasts at the end of each day of fasting. Some residents say they can no longer afford many fruits.
We are fasting even without Ramadan. We have only one meal per day. We see apricots that cost 300 or 400 Syrian pounds. Same thing is for cherries, oranges and watermelons. We take pictures of the fruit and watch them on our mobile phones.
Since the start of the Syrian war in March 2011, more than 200,000 people have died and millions more have been displaced.
The Palestinian Authority denied that Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah has handed his resignation to President Mahmoud Abbas. Abbas's spokesman Nabil Aburdaini said the Palestine Liberation Organization's Executive Committee would hold a meeting Monday to discuss the formation of a national unity government. Another close aide to Abbas, Nimr Hamad, said earlier Hamdallah had presented the resignation of the unity government to Abbas, who asked him to form a new government. Hamas spokesman Sami Abu Zuhri said the group, which rules the Gaza Strip, rejects any unilateral dissolution of the unity government and said it had not been consulted. Across a wide belt that stretches halfway around the globe, the world's estimated 1.6 billion Muslims will mark the beginning of Ramadan this weekend. The month is considered as one of blessing, marked by prayer, compassion, and charity. Here's more.
Ramadan, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is the month in which the first verses of Quran were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ more than 1,400 years ago. Fasting is an opportunity for practice self-control to cleanse the body, which Muslims see as helping their spiritual devotion. In Jordan, the holy month of Ramadan has a special spirit which is obvious and can be felt in the street. Besides the must-have decorations like illuminated crescents and lanterns and traditional Ramadan sweets such as qatayef, some find in the fasting month a purely spiritual opportunity to strengthen their faith. Despite the bleak economic situation, elsewhere, Palestinians in Jerusalem, the West Bank and Gaza Strip stocked up on food and presents. In the holy city of Jerusalem, juice vendor Abu Farid Sumeira said he longed for the days that preceded the 1967 war, which resulted in Israel's occupation of Gaza, the West Bank, and the Arab East Jerusalem.
Where is the old Ramadan? We were living in peace and love each other. Work was good too. All the country was opened. People used to come from Amman, Ramallah, Hebron, Jenin, Nablus, Jericho, and from everywhere. Today, as you can see, it's like a curfew situation.
In Gaza, thousands more are living in buildings damaged during Israel's war last year, using plastic sheeting to try to keep out the rain.
As you can see, how will it be any better while we are living under a blockade in Gaza? Gaza is under blockade and coming out of war. Last year, when people were celebrating Ramadan, we were celebrating the war. This year, nothing has really changed because there isn't reconstruction or life or work.
The holy fasting season is marred by unprecedented turmoil, violence and sectarian hatreds that threaten to rip apart the Middle East and epicenter of Islam. Hiba Latoum for the News at 10.
Time is running out for Greece to reach a reform for aid deal with its international creditors. The Greek Central Bank warned that the country risked a painful exit from the euro and ultimately even the European Union if Athens and its creditors do not strike a swift deal. A top Greek negotiator said the government was ready to make unspecified concessions but ruled out any cuts to pensions, a major sticking point in the negotiations. We get more in this report.
The spirit of defiance lives on, at least for local government workers raising this banner in Athens. But the headlines read differently, many talking of a country on the brink. That's a sentiment that rings true on the streets.
The situation is incredibly unstable. It's a gamble. I don't know what to say, but of course I'm very worried.
A Grexit could happen, and the result of that would be really bad. I don't know what to say.
Those fears are becoming official. The morning after Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras told Parliament his country was being humiliated by its creditors, the Greek Central Bank is warning of a painful course ahead. Default, exit from the euro and deeper recession all possible if Athens fails to strike a deal with its paymasters. For investors, it's a waiting game, trading cautious in Europe's markets ahead of what many see as the next crunch point, Thursday's meeting of Eurozone finance ministers. Baader Bank's Robert Halver says Athens can still play a hand.
There are trump cards and the Greeks still think they have them in their pockets. One trump card is certainly that they can say, if we leave the Eurozone, then it's the beginning of the end.
And Athens may have few options but to bargain anyway, says JP Morgan strategist Kerry Craig.
For us, the base case is very much that you will see a negotiation, and we do think that perhaps Greece and Syriza will be forced into that by its own population, by the fragility of its own banking system more than anything else.
Before that, many investors fear capital controls will be imposed. The central bank also confirmed that around 30 billion euros of deposits has been withdrawn from lenders between October and April.
The World Health Organization said South Korea's outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS, is a wake-up call, but does not constitute a global emergency. It made the announcement as South Korea reported 8 new cases. Members of the World Health Organization's Emergency Committee agreed unanimously that the outbreak did not qualify as a public health emergency of international concern. South Korea said 19 people diagnosed with the MERS syndrome had recovered and been discharged from hospital. The outbreak has been traced to a 68-year-old South Korean man who returned from a business trip to the Middle East in early May. The World Health Organization said it expected new cases in coming weeks, although the numbers appear to be declining.
As of today, the outbreak in the Republic of Korea has resulted in 162 cases of infections, and there have been 19 deaths which have been officially reported. And currently there are over 6,500 people who are under monitoring as contacts of these cases.
Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu paid tribute to former Turkish President Süleyman Demirel and declared a national period of mourning. Demirel died early today at the age of 90 at the Guven Hospital in Ankara, where he had been undergoing treatment for a respiratory tract infection. Demirel was twice toppled by the military during 7 stints as the head of government. He served as Prime Minister 7 times through the 60s to the 90s and was president from 1993 to 2000. He first came to power in general elections held 5 years after the 1960 coup at the head of the Justice Party. Speaking during a visit to Demirel's home in Ankara, Davutoglu paid tribute to the former president's contribution to the country. The future for virtual reality might be finally here. Battle lines were formed at the opening of the Electronic Entertainment Expo 2015, better known as E3 in Los Angeles, as gaming giants set the promise of virtual reality as the new battleground for this year's convention taking place. Leaders Microsoft, Sony and Oculus Rift squared off as the show kicked off in an effort to promote their virtual reality accessories, which in the past have been synonymous with clunky headgear and the promise of performance that always seemed a generation away. At this year's E3, there were plenty of familiar gaming franchises making sequels for fans eager to try them out. Activision's A Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and Microsoft's Halo 5 were among the titles generating a strong buzz among gamers. Germany's Florian Mayer advanced to the third round at the Tennis Halle Open in Germany after easing past Steve Johnson of the U.S. in 2 sets. With his 6-3, 7-6 victory, Mayer now set up a clash with winners of the late match tonight between top seed Roger Federer and Ernest Gulbis. Ivo Karlovic of Croatia also cruised to the third round with a win against Germany's Alexander Zverev. Though he had a tough time, the 8th seed fought back from a set down to run out a 6-7, 6-3, 6-3 win. Chelsea's Colombian winger Juan Cuadrado said Radamel Falcao is already a Chelsea teammate, somehow confirming his move as a done deal. Falcao, who is captain of his Colombian team at the Copa America in Chile, left Manchester United after a disappointing season on loan from Monaco. United have said they will not use their option to buy Falcao from Monaco. British media also reported that Chelsea were on the verge of agreeing terms with the striker for a season-long loan deal. And finally, mild conditions in most regions tonight with northwesterly light to moderate winds. Tomorrow, moderate conditions prevail in hilly areas, but it'll be relatively hot in the Badia and the Jordan Valley with northwesterly moderate winds. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Here now's the temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Their Majesties check on the living conditions of children at Al Hussein Social Foundation for Orphans at the start of the holy month of Ramadan. The Yemeni government's delegation threatens to quit talks on a possible truce and no progress is reported. And Greece risks a painful exit from the euro and ultimately the European Union if Athens and its creditors do not strike a swift aid for reforms deal. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night. كل عام وأنتم بخير.